Now that the major problems were resolved, from today onward, I could throw away the worries I had in the past few months and live a peaceful life. You're telling me that not everything was stressful since I was actually enjoying the research. Well, you're right. Though I did have to occasionally act as if I was trying my best, lest I be viewed as a slacker. This was what we called adults' art of socializing. It was never a good idea to invest maximum effort at work. If you were to do that, then the amount of work you did would be viewed as the norm. Naturally, it would seem as if you had no problems with it, and thus you would be prone to be assigned more responsibilities. The capable man must be able to distinguish how much work was suited for the amount of effort devoted. At the end of the day though, what mattered most was enjoying your work. In any case, I plan to inspect the newly constructed school today. The children I brought from Ingratia were studying here too. I mentioned this once while chatting with Yuki. Letting the children socialize with each other would be the fastest method for them to learn human common sense. In a school filled with only monster kids, there was a possibility that they would never learn about the norms of human society. Be that as it may, you wouldn't have to worry about such things at this school. Many adventurers and migrant laborers, family in tow, had immigrated to our town. Naturally, there were many children among them. In this world, it was the norm for children of low-income families to be part of the labor force. However, our nation had laws prohibiting child labor. After all, a kid's job was just to have fun and enjoy their childhood. Anyway, they only needed to study things they were interested in. Furthermore, the hard work of the adults would inspire the children to put in similar effort towards their studies. With that being said, putting aside mathematics, the focus was mainly on reading and writing. To be honest, even I considered the curriculum difficult, and Masayuki was of the same mind. Being proficient in reading and fluent in conversing was one thing, however writing was the difficult part. In my case, I could rely on the automatic translation of Wisdom King Raphael to bypass the issue. Without that, even I didn't have the confidence to score full marks on a language exam administered here. I figured that as long as it didn't cause any problems, I could simply play dumb about it. Although, this did feel like cheating. Getting back on topic, the children were excelling in their studies. Serving as a wonderful incentive to boost their eagerness for learning, I had translated manga into this world's language. It was a huge success. It seemed like everyone in the school was a fan of the manga, to the point where some even carried it around with them, apparently turning it into a highly coveted status symbol. Kenya, being both adept at combat and a holder of manga, somehow became the boss of the school. You stinky boys. Stop playing all the time and help clean the classroom. Ah, Alice just lost it. She was shaping up to be an extremely competent class representative. Huh. Why do we have to bother with that? Wait, Ken-chan, we'll be in a world of hurt if we make Alice angry. Shut up, Ryota. I'm gonna beat Alice today and become the real boss around here. Such a brat. Hold on. I guess they were still just kids. I realized that Alice was the real boss around the class, not Kenya. Were they fighting because of this? Kenya wouldn't want to admit it, which is perhaps why he wanted to fight Alice. So, that's how it is, huh? A boy would intentionally infuriate the girl he liked to make her look his way. However, this tactic wasn't always effective in reality. Besides, it was liable to mess up and cause the opposite of the intended effect. It was best to treat the girl you admire gently. Kenya was still too naive and thus presumably lacked this insight. Fighting Alice wouldn't win her heart. Instead, it would doubtlessly serve to only piss her off. Didn't I say this already? I'll show you how scary I really am. Alice was no different, showing not a single shred of femininity. She may have seemed mature, but that couldn't be further from the truth. But to be fair, Alice was only 11 years old. Didn't all 6th graders behave this way? Everyone else's reaction implied that they were accustomed to this scene. Oi, who do you think will win today? Of course it'll be the Empress. I suppose so. She's our Empress, the youngest and the strongest. Well, Kenya is strong too, he's no match for her. It's because he's in love with Alice. That's why he can't win. They were all adding their own 2 cents. Oi, Gail. Don't talk nonsense. Kenya complained. That's right. How could Kenya have a crush on me? Is your brain fried or something? Alice, on the other hand, laughed it off as the ramblings of an idiot. Gail had very casually revealed Kenya's secret. Looks like it's too early for these kids to get in any sort of relationship. That was okay in my book. Both the monster and human kids found the two interesting. Everyone knew that they weren't really on bad terms despite what appearances suggested. Gail was the oldest boy and seemed to be covertly monitoring the two, ready to intervene if any real problem were to arise. It would have been interesting to continue observing this silently, but today was not the day. Hinata was due to come by later. Alright, that's it. No fighting in the classroom. I scolded as I entered the classroom to greet the kids. At that same exact moment, Chloe jumped in from the side and latched onto me. Sensei. Chloe joyfully exclaimed. I somehow didn't sense her aura, which suggested that Chloe's skills had improved dramatically. Moreover, it looked as if she knew I was coming very early on. Ah, Rimuru-sensei. Chloe, that's cheating and cunning. Alice protested, but wasn't one to be outdone. Just like Chloe, she came running and hugged me. Cuteness is truly the best. Someone emerged from behind them, exclaiming, Rimuru-sama, long time no see Rinsu. A cute girl with a cliché bob haircut jumped in front of me. She was wearing an elegant kimono and appeared to be a little girl around the same age as Alice. Her most eye-catching features were her fox ears. I didn't remember seeing a beautiful little girl like this, but I also felt like I'd seen her somewhere before. Could it be? Are you Kumara? It is me, Rinsu. The young girl with the bob haircut energetically replied. Kumara replied. Right, Kumara was a high-level monster. She has successfully evolved after I had bestowed a name upon her. That must be why she had a human form. I recalled that I left her in Hinata's care along with the rest of the kids. Once the school was constructed, Kenya and the others began walking to and attending classes. I had always thought that Kumara was staying in the labyrinth all this time. But to my surprise, it seemed that she was going to school with the children as well, and even made some friends. I believed that this was a good thing. Rimuru-sensei has come. Kenya and Ryota's reactions were slower than the girls as they only noticed me just now. However, their words were overshadowed by the cheers of the other students. Whoa, Rimuru-sama. It's actually him. Awesome. I'm gonna brag about this to my dad later. And so, a commotion broke out in the classroom. Catching wind of the excitement, the teachers that came to investigate soon formed a crowd of their own. His Majesty himself has graced our facility. Had you contacted us first, I would have shown you around. What silliness is that? I am the vice principal. I should have been the one to show His Majesty Rimuru around. Nonsense. You are just a mere vice principal, Began. His Majesty Rimuru has granted me the position of principal. I should have this special privilege. They were getting riled up as well. We hired teachers by paying monthly salaries. There were retired adventurers, merchants from the Kingdom of Bloom and sought through Meyermile's arrangements, and more. The principal of this school was a chief from one of the goblin villages. Other than the principal, the rest of the staff were all humans. The Holy Knights acted as special lecturers, taking turns to hold classes. Hinata would spend time with the children when she could as well. Everything was going very smoothly. At first, the Holy Knights all seemed rather confused, but they didn't treat the monsters any differently. Rather, they gave the same level of care and guidance to both humans and monsters. They genuinely helped out a lot. Don't worry, I just snuck out on my own today. I actually have something to discuss with Kenya and the kids. I see, then please visit and observe the children's progress next time. Indeed, if you inform us of your arrival, we shall present you with the perfect learning conditions. The teachers and children simultaneously nodded in agreement. But hold on a second. What the hell did perfect learning conditions mean? Wouldn't you guys be guilty of trying to deceive me? Didn't that make the whole visit meaningless to begin with? Oi, His Majesty Rimuru is really troubled by this. We were interrupted by Holy Knight Fritz, who was handling today's lecture. If he hadn't, this commotion probably would have continued for a while. Speaking of which, having a commander of the Holy Knight Order as their lecturer was honestly incredible. Is Fritz and the lecturer for today? Oi, please stop with the "San Your Majesty Rimuru." You can drop the honorific. Really? In that case, Fritz, drop the Your Majesty too. That would be inappropriate. Fritz smiled and added, please allow me to call you Rimuru-sama at the very least. Or else, every citizen in this nation is going to look at me differently. This guy seemed to be someone that wasn't mindful of social statuses, yet he was still cognizant of the fact that he couldn't directly address me by my name. To be fair, I would have acted the same way if I were in his shoes. Unless a person had some respectable background, to call another kingdom's ruler by their name directly would take a really pure-hearted moron. You have a point. You'll need to wait until you're out of the public eye in order to relax honorifics. It's a bit inconvenient here. Thank you for understanding, Fritz said with a wink, and gave a somewhat playful smile. You shouldn't be happy seeing a man wink at you, but it felt like Fritz was somehow naturally affectionate. Alright, putting that aside, thank you so much for assisting the school activities. Please don't say that. Seriously, compared to the rigorous training assigned by Hinata-sama, a mission like this is honestly heaven. You get food until your tummy is full and, more importantly, the children's respect. All the knights have been fighting over the gig. I see. I caught wind of unexpected hardship. Fritz's straightforward attitude naturally made him exceptionally affable, but I didn't want to be oblivious of the time and place as he, unfortunately, had been. After all, my magic perception was sending me feedback. Congratulations then, Fritz. Was my training too rigorous? I fine-tuned the training based on your strength, but apparently it is getting in the way, a cruel voice drenched Fritz. Hinata entered the scene. Suddenly, the whole area was filled with the Tensura. The children, and even the adults that had gathered, all straightened their backs and didn't dare to move a muscle. The teachers had the same reaction. I wasn't sure whether to laugh at this or not. It went without saying that Fritz was tonight's biggest loser. Hinata-sama. Misunderstanding, yes, it's all a big misunderstanding. That was just bureaucratic talk. Fritz tried his hardest to save himself given the conversation, yet I could already tell that he was irredeemable at this point. I hurriedly made myself scarce and sought refuge. Hopefully Fritz wouldn't suffer any ill fate in the future.